Howdy, train fans, and welcome back to the Chattanooga Southern Railroad. If you saw my teaser short, you saw the expansion that has already happened, and there's more planned. So this is going to be a little bit longer video than normal, so you might want to grab a beverage. I've got mine, and sit back and hear what the updates are. So first and foremost, I got out my Walther's GP30. This has both a DCC decoder and sound in it, and I did not know that this one actually runs the sound off of DC. It's not the greatest because it does require the voltage to start up, but you know, it's enticing. So I'm even more excited to get my DCC system up and running. You can see here that I've got a tunnel portal in place, so got a lot of stuff in the mail yesterday. Track, some scenery stuff, a couple of the key ingredients that I needed. Unfortunately, I ran into a problem. I went with the Woodland Scenics tunnel portals because they have the widest mouth. And I wanted the widest mouth because I did 2.5-inch centers on these tracks to account for passenger cars, which are 72 foot in length, and I've got a couple of, other 70-foot cars. I've also got an 89-foot auto carrier, and I wanted to have the clearance between the tracks and the curves. Unfortunately, as you can kind of see, there's not a lot of clearance on the outside of these cars, and actually the passenger cars hit the and the 89s just demolish the portal. So what I really need is a portal with a 5-inch wide gap. This is only 4.5. So my plan as of right now is, you can kind of see a pencil line on the center of that. The other one over there has got one too. I'm seriously considering breaking that, cutting through it, surgically, and then widening that portal by at least a 1/2 inch and using some hydrocal from Woodland Scenics to kind of remold that. So that'll be a separate video after I attempt it on one. So you can wish me luck on that. On the other side of the layout here, again, this, same issue with this portal. And as I widened this, I realized I wasn't going to be able to put it where I wanted it because it would overhang the layout here. So I'm having to push this portal back. I thought it was going to be here, but I got a feeling after I've widened it a good bit, it's going to be back here. So we'll see how that works out. Started doing some building layout. This was one of the kits I got at the train show last weekend. I think I'm going to put it here as the old, I don't know if you can read that, the old freight dock here. There's a whole story around this whole area I've concocted that I'll share with you as part of the history of the Chattanooga Southern here in South Chattanooga. I've selected finally the Merchant Row 1 to go there and the Merchant Row 2 to go there. So I think that'll work out well. I think it's kind of weird that I did pick them to go 1 and 2. But anyway, that's just between you and I. And then here, this is an old Model Power demolished building kit that I think I'm going to put back over there. I think that will work really, really well. One of the things I'm doing, you'll see as I pan down towards the new extension, I am going to be putting a 18-inch high backdrop up here. And what I do want to do is I want to take advantage of the space back here and put a 1-foot wide hidden staging yard area. So I need to be able to access that. So I got one of the Atlas curved turnouts. It works perfectly here, and I'm going to take it off and have it dive into and behind the backdrop there to future staging. And I've got another access point back there that I'll show you. Okay, but let's walk on around and see the updates. So let's start here. So I am going to put the pickle factory here, but unfortunately I'm going to make it an abandoned pickle factory. So, and really roughen it up and weather it and whatnot. And this track here will be kind of like a staging storage track for that team track there. So overflow cars would go here, then the switcher would come in and interchange those out as needed. Okay. The other thing I'm decided to do is I am going to put the elevated road here, which will, you know, cut across here, come down and kind of split the two plans I'd originally had and connect back in here. So I'll be doing that, and that's part of the reason this pickle factory is going to be a quote-unquote abandoned. Over here I put in a number 4 left hand, or I'm going to put a number 4 left hand in as a the cutoff over to the new section. Excuse me, allergies are still bothering me. On the back side here, you'll remember that we had 2 tracks that came basically to the edge of the layout right here, right? So in this expansion, I'm having to rework some of that trackage, and that's going to get me a crossover in here, which will give me a runaround track in here for these industries. So there'll be 2 industries, one here and one here, right? In addition to that, the main line, which is where the cars are right now, that will come down here, down this main line right here, and on out through that tunnel there. And then if you look back at the town here, this was the main line. This here is going to be the passing siding here with a station, passenger station here. This is going to be the interchange track, which this is an interchange with the L&N right here, which I don't know if you can see it yet, but what I am doing as part of my quote-unquote history is that this actually used to come across and do through a double diamond here, and you can kind of see a dashed line. I'm going to show this as the abandoned L&N line, and it's going to cut across, and if you'll notice, it ties in with this right here. And so the idea is that this would have been the abandoned L&N that the Chattanooga Southern took over, ripped up this track, took over the right-of-way in this general area to make this section of South Chattanooga. In addition to the interchange track coming off the L&N, right, which is now the Seaboard Coastline Railroad, we've got another interchange storage track. So this train would come in, drop cars here and on there if it's a long train. And then off of that, we would have a diamond crossing for a couple of industry spurs. There'll be 2 industries along here, one here, and then this would have a run through the backdrop to that hidden staging in the back. In addition to that, we've got a lead coming off here. This is the cutover track, which goes behind the station to a spur back here. I haven't decided what I'm putting there yet. And then over around here with a turnout here to stage another industry here, and then of course it connects back in. Now, if you're paying attention to my track plan here, this is going to create a Y track. So I'm going to need to turn this section here into a reversing section. Now, off of that, I've got 2 other tracks coming off. I've got this one, which is going to be my engine facility lead, and then this one, which is going to be a future yard lead. Okay, and you can see here, let's follow the engine lead. So the engine lead comes around, fueling station here into what is basically an old 90-foot round turntable, sorry, with a couple, tracks there for storage of switchers and whatnot, working the yard, and, rough repair facilities. And then the yard lead comes off of here, goes through a curved turnout into a compound ladder, right? This is where you take turnouts off of turnouts to create a 4-track yard here. And then along this track here, we would have another industry here and another industry here, okay? So, a lot of you are saying, well, that's not a very big yard. I got a plan for that. So my intention is, I don't want to block the aisleway. Sorry for the cat ban there. The idea is to build a flip up end here that's long enough to hang down. That gives me about another 42 inches of track space for just yard tracks. And so that would be up during operating sessions and then flip down to make access through here easier. So in addition to that, my plan is to put a mountain here to kind of hide that corner. I did consider curving the backdrop back here. I thought about, putting buildings back in there, but nothing really made sense. And if you're familiar with the Chattanooga area, Missionary Ridge, there's a lot of ridge lines that intersect the right-of-way in and out of Chattanooga. So the thought was that this would be Missionary Ridge-like, that these 2 tracks would go out of to the north, further on up to like the Sitco yards and Harry DeButt's yard. So wanted to share with you real quick how I landed on this particular track plan. So I researched a lot. I knew I wanted a 2x8 extension here. This 2x4 over here was actually an afterthought, but I had the materials, I had the bench work underneath, the legs, everything. I said, why not, right? And I didn't put corner pieces in until I had this track plan 90-something% solidified. So this is just a 1x1 corner here. I've got a 2x2 corner here to account for the cutover track and an addition. But I knew that I was obviously coming off of 2 tracks coming up there. And so I don't know if you can see this track plan very well in this light, but this is one I got off of the internet, and you can see the basic form is pretty similar to what I have here, with some modifications. And one of the things I would suggest to all of you, as you're doing your track plan, even after you've done the computer stuff, that you do the paper turnouts like I suggested, and kind of lay it out and then sit on it for a little bit. Digest it, come back and look at it a couple hours later or a day later. I have manipulated this track layout at least a half a dozen times, little tweaks, moving these crossovers this way or this one that way, and do I want this track to go off that way or closer to this portal? This whole thing was a conundrum for me because I wanted to get enough track here to be able to justify a locomotive and a couple cars to take it into the interchange or the hidden staging in the back there, but also make it look realistic. Same thing with buildings. If you already have buildings like I have, you want to consider those when you're putting your track plan together. This space is being specifically built for one of the Walthers kits that has the pass-through section underneath of it. A lot of backdrop buildings. I've got 2 or 3 of them that I'm going to be putting up along here. I have finagled this area I don't know how many times before I finally settled on what you're seeing here, because I really wanted to get a passenger station in. And but anyway, there's going to be a whole story about that too. So but anyway, that's kind of where we are. There is plans for even more future expansion. Yes, I said that. And I'm not talking about just the staging yard or the hidden staging that I'm putting back here. But if you'll remember, I also have this track here, right? And I want to do something over here. And yes, I know I'm probably going to block my aisleway. But the idea, I've been looking at a couple different options. One is to do this. I want to do something 6 foot, 2 by 6. One is to do something like this, right? Which you can imagine that coming off of here. And the nice thing about this is it would land on top of that block wall there, which would make this a nice duck under at least. I'm not so sure. Whoop, it's not focusing. I'm not so sure how my back's going to handle that, but we'll find out. That was one track plan option. Just came across this one this morning, which is a little crazier. And what I really want this section over here that I'm putting in to be is a switching layout, because you have to remember that this, and you can kind of see the line of the old L&N, right? This coming down, and it would have normally kept going right to the south. And so that's what I was kind of envisioning this being, is the main line. But I wanted to have some serious industrial switching, some complex switching, and I'm leaning towards this one here. This one's also an option, but I'm not, I feel like it doesn't fit the historical thing that I'm going for here as well as this one does. So that's kind of where I am at this point. I am going to be running up to the Home Depot and get some more Homosote, along with a couple more 1x4s to build this section out here. It is a go, and then I'll put a backdrop up. One of the other things I'm considering as well is putting a triangular piece, another 2x2 triangular piece here, to kind of make this a softer transition to the backdrop here. So anyway, that's kind of it for now. I did get a couple more pieces of equipment, which I'll share in another video. I did get some painting supplies, some acrylic paints that's in that bag. I haven't unpacked them yet. I've got some paint brushes, as you can see here, along with some picture frames, which I'll show you what I'm going to do with those. Oh, one thing I did dig out was one of the original. Now, this is not Lynn Westcott's version of my original track plan, but it's the model railroader built this same layout and added the passing siding on the right, and they called it the Turtle Creek layout. But you can see this is where I kind of started. So if you all were interested in this 4x8 for your own layout, there's the track plan for you. Okay, all right. Other than that, there's all the tunnel portals I got. I also got a culvert and some retaining walls for there that I'm going to be putting in. Also got a mold for the tunnels themselves once I figure out the portal issue. And other than that, oh, and that's the portal that I'm going to be putting there, which I promised you some history around that. I think maybe what I'll do is I'll do a whole video about the history of this layout, the backstory, so to speak. So that'll help you better understand where I'm headed with all this. So anyway, I'll back up here, give you a full shot of the whole layout as it sits now, and say thank you for all the subscribers. I think I'm up to 140 now, which I'm just flattered that you all are that interested. For those of you that haven't subscribed, I'd love to hear why, but you know, if you don't want to, that's okay. If you do want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, let me know which videos you like, which ones you don't like, and we'll go from there. And thank you, and we'll see you all down the tracks.